How long have you been acting for?
I acted pretty much from like high school through my mid to late 30s. I really haven't done any sort of acting in the last 15 years or so. I did some community theater stuff, but I haven't really considered myself an actor for a while. I mean, it's part of who I am and what I had a great passion for when I was younger. But uh, so yeah, I mean, I acted for a good 25, 25 years, something like that.
That's a really long time. What made you want to get into acting?
What made me wanted to get into acting was having a great love of comic books and TV when I was growing up. And from a very early age, I was acting out stuff that I was reading or seeing on the television. My father was in the Air Force, and one of the presents he brought home for myself and my brother and sister was uh, a mangled parachute from one of the Air Force training exercises. It
Nice.
had a big rip in it or whatever, but I would set that up as a curtain, and then I would force my parents to watch me act out my favorite scenes from comic books.
Nice little makeshift backdrop.
Yeah, pretty much. So I mean, I was always drawn to uh, performance on that. I got very shy, like after the age of 10 or 11, up until about the age of 16 or so. And in junior high, I had joined the drama class, but dropped out and didn't get back into it until high school.
How long have you been a prop master for?
Hmm. I started early 80s, I'd say about 84, 85. I started off as an actor, and I got a part in a small film. And, you'd go in there and you work for a day and then you're gone. And it had to do with weapons and, on being on set talking about stuff. They found out that I had a weapons license at a young age, and they hired me on to do weapons on it. So I've been doing it ever since, doing props and weapons.
Nice. I guess before we go into more about your prop master, what was the movie called that you were in?
That was called, oh my God, you'd think I'd remember, but I want to say Night of the Comet, I think it was called. Yeah, Night
Nice.
of the Comet. Yeah, it was just a small part. I had a background thing. I got my SAG card on it, but I don't think I ever ended up in it. But I did start working on it.
Nice. Was that also the first movie you did props for, or was that later on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think I did props with those people. They just kind of showed me the way and kind of hired me just to clean a weapon or something like that. But yeah, that's kind of how I got my start with it. And then I started working for real low budget companies like Trauma and Roger Corman and stuff like that. I worked a lot with Trauma, West Coast. We did Nukem High 2 and 3.
You worked for Roger Corman?
Yeah, I did Mask of the Red Death with Roger Corman, and I remember being, and it was the the studios back then was a lumber yard. It used to be a lumber yard, and they turned it into a studio. And I remember being in on set. I think I was set dressing, and Roger Corman was talking with one of the producers, and he was saying, he liked the set that they had built, and he was going. He wanted to put it as added footage in a Boris Karloff film, and he was always he was always coming on set to try to make money off of stuff that he'd already done.
You worked for Marvel over back in the 80s and 90s. What was that like working for such a well-known comic book franchise?
It's kind of funny. It's like, you know, when you walked in the door, Mark Grunwald, the great Mark Grunwald, he kind of like oversaw you when you came in the door as the new member of the editorial staff. He had weekly meetings for the new guys, and he brought us in, he trained us and kind of stuff. One of the things he used to tell us is he's like, if reading comic books is your hobby, now that you work here, you better get a new hobby, because once this is your job, you're going to want to have another hobby. Turned out to be kind of true. What happens is when you're working and you're doing it all day long, every day, the last thing you want to do is go home and read a lot of comics. So for a long time after that, I didn't read a lot of comics. But, up to that point, I was a comic fiend, of course. That's kind of how I went there, was reading Mark's Remarks. He did a series, of he had a little column called Mark's Remarks, and he kind of told you how to break into comics back then. And I followed it to the letter, and I wound up at Marvel Comics. But
yeah, I'm looking at him right now. He definitely has like a big mustache.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I mean, he was such a great guy. He was a really nice guy. He was very funny, very lively. It was a terrible, terrible loss for the comics world. He did amazing things. I really, really think he was one of my top influences in comics. He did really neat stories. People don't realize some of the things that he did and how influential he was. I think some people don't really give him the credit he deserves for some of the stuff that he did.
How long have you been acting for? What made you want to get into it?
I've been acting now probably for a good 10 years now.
So fairly
I don't like to keep track.
That's a fairly long time.
Counting.
Now you also before I ask more questions, you're also a singer, improviser, and writer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm very new to writing, and it's something that I encourage anyone to do, really, but actors to keep themselves busy in between auditions to write and express. And I'm very new to it, but I'm very excited about it. And singing has always kind of been a part of my makeup. My dad's a musician and likes to produce his music, and is awesome. And he inspires me. And I did musical theatre, so like singing, that's where I was like birthed into musical theatre. And so singing's just always been a part of my life and brings me joy. I've kind of had both ends of it. I've done musical theatre, and then I've also like fronted a band and like done top 40 hits and had so much fun doing that side of things as well.
Nice.
And then improvising is something I've been doing for the past few years, and now I've been doing shows for the past kind of 8 months to a year now as well, and really enjoying it. Improv is helped me grow a lot. Yeah.
I mean, I've checked out your IMDb. It definitely seems like you've done quite a few roles in the past 10 years.
Yeah, with TV and film. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was birthed into theatre in England, and then when I came to Canada, that's really kind of when I did do a little bit of film in England, but I wasn't trained. So I did all my training in Canada and kind of grew in Canada with the TV and film.
So to begin, how long have you been doing this for?
As far as voice acting goes, my career started officially the very tail 98. I was already a studio and live performer, singer, choreographer, singer, dancer, actress. I'd already been performing professionally about 18. I went to college for drama and performing arts and sciences. I joined a show band. I got an audition through people I knew from singing in my, and next thing you know, I'm on the road and I'm touring with a show band all over the United States and parts of Canada and Europe.
Nice. What made you want to get into this kind of line of work later down the road?
You know, I knew as a very young child, as far back as I can remember, furthest oldest memory I have is when I was 3, and my dad and my mom were both into music, and we always had some kind to be able to showcase and listen to music. And my little Radio Shack microphones, 70s, were going on. And I remember him, recording me and my brother. My brother's 3 years older, on these, and we would talk and sing all of our little nursery rhymes and our songs or whatever it is that we had that we knew, to 8-track tapes. And I just remember when it was time to go to bed, time to stop, I would literally like cry when that microphone was taken out of my hand.
It's like, no, I want to keep on going.
And I just loved it. I loved voicing. I loved mimicking. I loved cartoons. I loved, more than anything, I loved singing. And I was always singing, being still my voice, and I'd get in trouble for it. Okay, that's enough. I'd be on the road trip and I would just sing the whole way, and then it'd be like, okay, let's take a break, and I'd just be singing musical songs, a lot of disco music, loved show tunes. I liked anything and everything, really. I mean, whatever my parents listened to, 50s and 60s. Grew up in Tennessee, so Elvis was a big thing for us,
Nice. So to begin, how long have you been acting for, and what made you decide that it was something you wanted to do?
I was talking about this the other day. I've been acting since I was like 9 or 10 years old. My mom got me into it it was like a summer play, something to do. She always knew that I was imaginative and running around and making up stories and stuff like that. And so it quickly became one of my favorite things because it was approved and there was a stage and people clapped, and you got to create the world as you wanted to see it. And I've kind of always been doing this. I mean, when I went to college, I knew I wanted to major in drama, and it's just been kind of a lifelong pursuit. I've had a few periods where I've taken breaks and gone and done other things and other pursuits, but for the most part, everything's always brought me back to this. And for a long time, I thought pretty much stage theatrical stuff was going to be what I was going to stick with. And then we were making independent movies with a lot of the people that we were doing theater with, and we were kind of just in the discussion of it. And then eventually it just kind of folded into one another. One thing became the next, and then I made the movie The Signal, and we went out Sundance, and our little independent movie sold for a lot of money. And I came back, and I'm laying bricks in the cold weather, and I was like, I have a degree in this. I'm really good at this. We just sold this movie for several million dollars.
Might as well put it to good use.
Might as well start pursuing something else. And the day that The Signal actually came out in a few theaters around the US was the day that I got Final Destination. And that was the sort of thing that, you've got to listen to the little messages,
So to begin, how long have you, or what made you want to get into acting? Like, how did you start this whole thing? Because I kind of remember you telling me in your mini interview during Comic-Con early this year.
So how it started out was my mom got me into modeling. So I was mostly a model. I did a lot of ads. I did probably about 300 ads. I started at, I want to say age 5, like Barbie, those kind of ads. And so she also wanted me to start acting. So obviously it was all my mom's doing.
So she's basically like your agent at the time?
Yeah. One of those kind of stage moms. And so I guess she thought I could act, which I couldn't. And I auditioned for a lot of big films that I didn't get the part. So Hocus Pocus was one of them. And I actually auditioned for the part of Emily Binks. So I remember that my dad got a fax from work of the script. So my mom's trying to read me the lines so I can learn them. And at age 6, I could not say Thackeray. That was like the hardest word. I couldn't even pronounce magazine. But I went in, I did the audition. The director was Kenny Ortega. I see him off to the side, and I'm speaking with the casting director who was named Barbara. And I'm just talking to them. I'm not even I don't even remember saying the lines to them. But the director, Kenny Ortega, was on the phone the whole time. He didn't even really look at me. Well, apparently he really liked me but knew I was not right for Emily Binks. And
How long have you been doing this for?
I took my first voiceover class in 2014. It was a 4-hour intro class on a Saturday. Fell in love with it ever since then.
Nice. So almost about 9 years now.
About 9 years, yeah.
Nice. What was that like, taking a voice acting class?
Yeah, I had never really, I was working in digital media and hadn't really, voice acting had never really been on my radar. And then a couple people in the same week like mentioned it to me, and I was like, maybe I should be looking into this. And so I found that class on a Saturday. It was 4 hours long, and it was a little mix of getting directed and also doing some cold reads, and we're able to get in the booth, and it was like a small intimate group of like 10 people, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, and I needed to do it more after that. So just started rinsing like classes and workshops and coaching and all sorts of stuff after that.
Nice. Do you remember who your teacher was and what the name of the class was?
The instructor of that particular class was Noel Romano, and it was up at Voice Tracks West studio up in I guess it's like the Sherman Oaks area ish, up here in Los Angeles. And it was, I think it was affiliated with Edge Studios, and I took a bunch of classes through Edge Studios after that.
Nice. What made you want to like decide this is something you wanted to do?
I really liked I've sung in the past and been in some bands and things like that. So I've been used to like using my voice, to for various things. And so I just really liked the mix of the creative side of it, and also like the analytical side of like breaking down a script and trying to see who your audience is and what your motivation is and all that stuff, and mixing that in with the creative aspect of the acting was really something that was super appealing to me. So
to begin, what made you want to get into acting, and how did you start that?
Well, with acting, I guess it started as a street dancer, because when you're a street dancer, you're doing acting particular moves to make people laugh and to make people giggle at certain things, and of course applause. And with that, kind of broke the ice for acting. So when we got into acting, we were just being ourselves, but portraying an actual character, just like anyone else would do. And it came pretty easy if you put your mindset into it and you blank out everything else behind you. And anyone really can do it. It's just a lot of people can't find themselves and then dive into that type of mode. That's why reality shows are so big, because it's unscripted, but people are living their own lives, which is same as acting.
So what made you like just so you started out dancing? What was that like before you were acting and everything?
Well, the dancing, we couldn't afford, my mother and I couldn't afford dance lessons. I took dancing in school and things like that. But, when you're back then, if you were doing jazz or ballet, that was made for different types of people. And for me being in the sports and things like that, I was too cool to go down that route. So we started doing street dancing, which